Out over the Caribbean Sea, the sun is rising and casting its warm glow through the sky. Morning has broken, and the city of Havana is beginning to stir. Cuba is awakening to a new day. As you can imagine, life in Cuba isn't easy. The economy is managed and monitored by the government. Restaurants, gas stations, markets are all owned by the government.
In Cuba, more than probably 80% of the population work for the government. And the government pays little to the people. So the average wages here would go between $8 to less than $20 a month. And people have to be creative and use their wits and initiatives parallel to the wages they make with the government to make sure they have food on their tables on a daily basis.
Everywhere you look is a contradiction. Candy-colored vintage cars roam the streets, having survived patchwork mechanics. Tourists admire the narrow streets of old Havana, where the architecture points to a bygone era, a luxurious Cuba from the past, whereas the next street over reveals the decay of a country that has shut out the world. There are billboards and signs everywhere. They shout for freedom and revolution, while quietly reminding everyone that this is a country of mandatory consensus and insisted ideas. This is life, and this life has fueled a great reliance on God.
We have a beautiful country with warm people, friendly people. We also have some hardships and difficult conditions, political, economical, but our faith helps us to move forward, to move ahead, and praise the Lord every day, and have our church activities, and share the wonderful experience of knowing the Lord and the eternal hope.
This is the city of Cardenas. It is located about 100 miles east of Havana. Cardenas is a port city with an estimated population of 107,000 people. Like Havana, the area is a tourist magnet, but not for the same reasons. Here, the attraction is the world-famous Varadero resort town, located just minutes from Cardenas. 1 million foreign visitors flock to Varadero each year to indulge in the town's 12 miles of white sandy beaches. But while the world's tourists are drawn to the sea, Maranatha's numerous visits to Cardenas have taken us here. This is the Cardenas Adventist Church. It was built in 1966. Back then, the compact room provided plenty of space for the small but faithful congregation. Today, there are more than 100 members. On Sabbath morning, the crowd spills out from the church into the patio. Each week, they set up an awning and benches to accommodate the overflow. They need a new church, a bigger church.
We didn't have enough land, enough property to build a bigger church building. So that's when the struggle started to get land for a bigger project there.
Coincidentally, there was a large empty lot adjacent to the church. The church decided to purchase the property so there would be plenty of room to build a larger church. As usual, the process wasn't simple. It took 15 long years to get permission to buy the land. Maria Elena is one of the founding members of the Cardenas Church. She and her daughter Marisa have been praying for a new church for so long that they have calluses on their knees.
I've been praying, and look, my knees, praying because we need a temple, and God has been glorified.
When they finally heard that Cardenas had acquired the land to build a larger church, they were emotional.
Hoy un día muy feliz, very, very happy, muy feliz.
Well, today is a very happy day. For many reasons, like I told you, my mom is here, the founder of the Cardenas Church, who is 90 years old. I prayed so much that we can all share in the dedication, and this will be a very special day for us all.
Y que será un día muy especial para todos nosotros.
After 15 years of processes and waiting, Cardenas was able to purchase the lot next door and begin dreaming of their new, larger church. But the long journey wasn't over quite yet. Maranatha still had to receive permits to begin construction. Finally, in 2014, the government gave Maranatha the green light to begin.
So this is a good day.
Este es un buen día. Amén.
Well, it was a beautiful and exciting afternoon. It was an afternoon where perhaps the hopes we had lost, humanly speaking, we recovered them, and we believed that at that moment it would become a reality and we would have a new church. And we feel happy, joyful, contented.
In October 2015, after 20 years of starts and stops, disappointments and joy, Maranatha broke ground on the Cardenas Church.
Today is a really exciting day here in Cardenas, Cuba, as we see the foundations coming up on the brand new church that's going to be built here in the very near future. In fact, just this morning, Sunday morning, we began the process of tearing down the old church. Yesterday, the last Sabbath that this church is going to meet here, they raised their hands and they voted in faith to step out and have us go ahead and take that church down. Now that's something new for them, so it is a big step of faith.
Puede ser un remanso de paz. Puede ser un lugar donde los abatidos, afligidos
You know, God works in unique and different ways, and it's not always the same. Sometimes the answers are right away, and they're positive, and we like those kind of answers because, you know, we live in a world that we want it right now. And when you look back over a project that has taken over 20 years, you realize that sometimes, for reasons that I don't know the answers to, God has a different plan.
It would have been easy to give up on Cardenas. Cuba isn't an easy place to work, but faith is strengthened during hardship. In what has sometimes felt like an impossible situation, Maranatha has had to rely on God that much more. It's a response that the people of Cuba understand deeply.
You understand Well, you know, you tend to rely on what you have to rely on. It's pretty easy to, if you've got a big bank account, it's easy to rely on that. You might not, but you could. Anything that you have that keeps you from needing God or thinking that you need God, you rely on that. But for many of the people in Cuba, they don't have much. They've always said, you know, God will do it in His time, and they've believed. And you know, God's good for that kind of a faith. So it's exciting. It's great to be part of that. I mean, it does something for my own soul to watch that experience and see their passion. And it's neat. I can't hardly wait for the opening day.
Here, on this island where men are gods and religion is considered a mirage, faith is thriving. For these believers, God is central. God is freedom.
God means everything to me. Since I've known the gospel, I believe God is wonderful, and I'm sure God is wonderful. I have been through difficult experiences, but I have always seen the presence of God's hand.
What the church means to me is that it is the greatest thing on this earth.
From the very beginning, the Cardenas Church has been a project of unrelenting faith, not only for the members, but also for Maranatha. Construction on the sanctuary has started, but all the funding is not in place. Maranatha still needs your help to complete this project. The people of Cardenas are pleading for your generosity.
If someone wants to make a donation, listen to God's voice. Respond to God's calling. We need a large temple so that we can fill it. They can contribute to the filling of this church so that God's work can be finished and Christ can return soon.
Recent political announcements point to great change about to take place in Cuba. These discussions carry with them a hope that life will be different in Cuba, perhaps a little easier. But political change comes slow, and the reality is that true transformation is already taking place in Cuba. More and more people are realizing that God cannot be ignored. And as long as this message spreads, Maranatha will continue building churches and hope in Cuba.
Sometimes you think, hey, they go in the kingdom ahead of all of us because they really have, they've been tested. They've gone through things that we have never had to go through, many of them. And this thing with God is very real for them. So when you go in and you hear them with their exuberant amens, they mean those amens. Those are real to them. They want to be there for church. They want to be there to worship God. They want to be there with their fellow members. And they're looking forward to the kingdom of God.